Welcome to the Agents of the Unexplained podcast. From a haunted abandoned asylum to Sasquatch lurking in the dark woods and watching you, and all things unexplained, here are the stories from outside our realm. With your host, Bill Rigby.
Good evening, everybody. This evening, this is going to be a recorded show. I know I usually go live, but we're recording this one because of the time scheduling for my guest, who is a 14th researcher. He's podcaster, great guy. I met him up in Marionville at the Forest County Bigfoot Festival. And very interesting gentleman. I can say a lot more about him, but I'm going to let him describe everything to you. And there's some questions I do have for him, because I think we're on a little bit of the same wavelength on some things. So, but let me bring him in. Right. There he is, Mr. Justin Decker. How you doing,
hey guys,
buddy?
how you? Doing all right, Bill. How you doing, man?
We're hanging in there, and I'm so glad you're able to do this with me.
Me too. I'm looking forward to it.
How can I put? Just a little bit we talked. You earned a lot of respect from me. Just from the things you had to say, and I got. So that's saying a lot. It really is. I can like a person, but for me to get the respect, it takes a little bit. But you earned it quickly.
I appreciate it.
But before we start into everything else, you got a podcast too. Let's talk about it first. Tell the people all about it.
Sure, no problem. I co-host the podcast with Grizzly Chris on his YouTube channel, which Grizzly is on the Hunt. We do live broadcasting Thursday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern. It's called Paranormal and Cryptid Rabbit Holes. And so we kind of focus in on a subject and go as deep dive into it as we can. We like to bring on experienced guests that can talk about the subject. And we just have a great time talking about those things that a lot of other podcasters aren't going to talk about because they don't want to go down that rabbit hole, and that's what we enjoy doing.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like you and me talked earlier, I'm in it to learn. I got a bunch of experience, but I'm still learning. And you mentioned the rabbit hole, and boy, is that damn rabbit hole big. And,
oh yeah.
From Bigfoot. The Mothman, Nessie, Champ down there at Champ Lake, all the paranormal, the aliens and UFOs. I'm into it all, like you are. You're a 14 researcher, investigator, and the thing is, you will deep dive into this stuff. From what I've seen you talk about, and that's impressive. That you are at that, and folks, you really need to catch their podcast, because you'll be surprised. Grizzly, he's a good guy too, but this gentleman here, how'd you put it? You're the nerd on the computer. The armchair researcher.
Yep, I'm just a nerd that likes talking and reading books. I've been researching the strange since I was about 12 years old. And just anything and everything I can come up with it, man. I'm just into it.
Yeah, and it's just been crazy, with a lot of this stuff, people are saying, well, armchair, you're just a guy behind the keyboard. If it wasn't for the keyboard people, there's a lot of stuff we wouldn't know about. because I hate getting on there and start researching with the computer. I'm dead serious. I'd rather be out in the woods or wherever it's at, in a haunted building, whatever. But to do the research with the computer, I hate it. So I love the keyboard.
I refer to it as archival research. And basically how I started was just reading reports and reading books. And on every subject, whether it was paranormal, ghosts, aliens, poltergeist, ESP stuff, right? Telekinesis, all this kind of stuff. Bigfoot, Dogman, any type of monster out there. I just got into it and started reading everything. And because I researched everything I could find, to me, it all seems connected. It all has a connection. And so my search has been to try and find what those connections are and how they interrelate with each other. You know, whether it's, Bigfoot with orbs or, Dogman and how they can talk, or supposedly with aliens and just everything. They're all connected somewhere along the line. And so that's what I've been finding fascinating ever since I was a kid.
Exactly. Now, I was 14 years old when I saw my first UFO. And it was kind of crazy. But that was 50 years ago. And it's been 50 years. Oh, wow. Half a century since I saw that UFO. And I go flying in the house because we're out waiting on the school bus. And I go flying in the house, told my mom, I said, look up there. It's a UFO. And she's looking and she says, you don't see nothing. Don't tell nobody you haven't seen nothing. Oh, okay. Well, the guy because it was like half mile to 3/4 mile away from us, where the one gentleman lives, and he took a picture of it, gave it to the local news channel, to the local newspaper, and people start saying he was just a crazy old guy. And that's one of the reasons my mom said, don't you say nothing. They discredited that poor guy big time. But
that's what they were doing back then. That was the line.
They were trying to say it was one of those metal trash can lids he threw in the air. Now, 3/4 mile away, I would not have seen that. Come on. Neither would the rest of the kids. But, yeah, so I can understand how, it was back then, but today it's totally different. Bigfoot is gone mainstream. UFOs are mainstream. Time. Yeah. I always believed, and it was 2 years ago that I had my sighting. 2 years this August. And even though I was a believer, I had a sighting. Did I hear it or smell anything when I first seen him? No. He was 15 feet from me. And as I was walking down the trail, I saw it, and I started scoping out the lower end of the trail. And I look over, and there he is. Now, I almost filled my pants. I ain't going to deny that. Now, that's the first time I ever got scared like that. And it affected me for a little while. And then it threw me down this rabbit hole. And like you said, orbs. I've seen orbs in that area. Not at the same time I saw the Bigfoot, but we've heard howls and that. Next thing you know, we see these orbs. And I had the other researchers that we were at my camp out that saw them too. So I know I wasn't crazy.
No.
Are they big? Are they Bigfoot related?
What?
You think they're Bigfoot related?
Well, it's hard to say how things are related, but I think they're all part of the same realm. I think is the best way to put it, right? They're not necessarily. I'm not saying that like Bigfoot's an alien or this kind of stuff, but I think they're all related in the fact that they all exist in a certain realm that sometimes can interact with us. Does that make sense? So they may not be directly emotionally related, but at the same time, they're all in that same realm. Whether you want, like Lord Pullman used to refer to it as the Goblin Universe, you know, where it was like all these weird things existed kind of outside of our normal realm, but they still interact with us, like they're kind of halfway out of reality.
Right.
And I think it's all based on our perception and what we are able to perceive. Because as humans, our perceptions are very limited. Like this is known, right? We can't hear things dogs hear. As people and birds and insects can see, we don't have those perceptions. Right. And I think a lot of these things exist alongside of us, but just in a way that we don't perceive them most of the time.
I know I got a very deep subject with how they can, like we see things in 2Ds and 3Ds. They're probably 4D. Mm-hmm. Okay, 4-dimensional. And I kind of believe in that, but you know, we don't have enough information that say yes or no or maybe. You know,
that's it. I mean, we don't even understand how something could perceive the world in 4D because that's beyond us. That's beyond our perception. All we can do is theorize what that may or may not be like, and we don't even know, you know?
Right. And I'd like to find out, you know, how can they be so camouflaged other than using the natural surroundings?
Sure.
And I can say why these pictures are blurry when people get these blurry pictures, because when you're taking a picture like what your phone, and you see it, you're zooming in on it. You take a picture, but there's a branch, a small branch ahead of it. It zooms in on that branch, and everything else is blurry around it. And so I can say that. Now I've seen some really good pictures, and this is before that AI and CGI stuff. I saw some really good pictures of it.
Right.
So, and that's before my own sighting. So that even said something there.
Yeah. I got a hold of, and I didn't take it, but I got a hold of one picture where I think it is a very, very good, clear picture, and it shows a big male walking directly away from the camera. Mm-hmm. But it's still not good enough to be definitive proof. A picture is never going to be good enough, period. Right. And I firmly believe that because everybody interprets things visually differently. This is a known phenomenon. And it's interesting because I didn't get into my background yet, but I was raised in the Amazon jungle in South America.
Okay.
And I grew up with an indigenous tribe in the Amazon jungle. They were a pre-Stone Age tribe. They didn't have any stone tools, anything like that. Now, when my parents were working with them, they were unable to see pictures. They showed a photograph or like a coloring book that had a picture in it. They were unable to actually interpret or see that picture because in their world, they had nothing like that. They didn't have any type of writing. They didn't have any type of like glyphs or hieroglyphs or anything like that whatsoever. The most that they did was draw on their face like a juice from a specific seed pod that would help keep the bugs away. They would draw designs on their face. They had no basis for interpretation of a flat picture.
Huh.
And so it's not just something that everybody can do. It's something that we're taught how to see the world. Okay? And
Right.
so even without looking at the picture, this perfect picture that I can clearly see muscle structure. I can clearly see how the arms and the legs, the back, and the buttocks, and how the creature is moving. I clearly see it in my mind. I had another person with this who was an unbeliever and tell me it looks like the ball root of a tree, a root ball. And I look at it and go, you know what? I can see what you're telling me. I can see what you're saying, how you're illustrating that, you know? So, to me, pictures and video evidence, well, they're great for personal use. They're great for, you know, maybe explaining what an area looks like and different things like that. They're never going to be the proof that people are looking for. You know,
Right.
I'm part of all these Facebook groups online, and they're always posting these pictures. And 90% of the time, I'd say 98% of the time, I don't see anything.
Right.
You know, I really don't.
Right.
And then 1% of the 2% that's left, I can easily tell that it's a tree or it's something else. And then you have that 12% where you just go, maybe I don't know. But that's about it. You know, pictures are not going to do it for us. They're not going to do it for us.
Well, early this spring, me and two of my buddies went out hiking, and we got in this one section of woods, and we're checking things out. We're kind of spread out a little bit. My buddy Gary had his small binoculars in his chest pocket. I had mine in my backpack,
Mhm.
and I go, Gary, get your binoculars out and look over this way. And he goes, oh, I see it. And it looked like a Bigfoot standing there. He brought his binoculars up, he zoomed in on it. Root ball tree that fell over. You know, yeah, I can understand people thinking maybe a Bigfoot is a root ball or vice versa. Just with that, you know.
Sure.
It's not, you know, I did take a couple pictures of it with my phone. I zoomed in with my phone and did a couple of pictures. They weren't that good because they were off in a distance. But yeah, I was going to come back the next day and see if it was still there. You know, but we didn't have to once Gary, you know, put his binoculars on. So,
Right.
you know, I can understand. Oh yeah, that's a root ball. Maybe. Yeah.
Well, that's just it. And people say, well, you weren't there, you didn't see it. And I go, well, you're absolutely right. I wasn't there, I didn't see it. But if you're telling me this picture is proof, then I have to say, no, it's not proof, because proof I can see too. You know, and that's just how it's working. But I will say, when it comes to photographs, I believe that cameras they don't work the way our eyes do. They work differently, and this is known in photography. You can capture things differently on, especially original film, not digital, but original film. You capture things differently than what we see with the human eye. It's not the same, right? And so maybe you're looking at a clear Bigfoot, and you can see it, and you're having this experience, and you go take a picture of it, and there's really blocking you. The picture still doesn't come out, and you don't understand it. Well, cameras don't see the same things we do. And that goes back into my theory of how these things are and how they're kind of part of this other realm, and that we're not going to perceive them the same way, and especially a camera's not going to pick up the light the same way, because all a camera does is take the light that's reflecting and capture it on something.
Exactly.
That's all it is. You know, and so if it's coming at you through a different kind of light spectrum, then it's not going to capture the same image that you're viewing right there in front of you.
Yes, and you're 100% right. And that goes in the hollow hair effect too, where the light
Yeah.
can go through it and change what you're looking at. So yeah, and I can believe in that too. You know. Oh, I just lost him. Let's see if he comes right back. I know he's having some problems there. We'll give it a moment or two, see if he gets back in. I know, here he comes. Where's, no, he's not in yet. There he is. There he is. There you are,
Yeah,
Justin.
I had an error pop up that said recording error, and then it kicked me out. I don't know what it was doing.
I think it was connection problem there.
Yeah. Like I was telling you when we first started, I'm up here in the Great Smoky Mountains of Tennessee, and we're having some rough weather, so I'm about in the flattest part outside of the mountains that I can find to pick up a signal.
Yes. Well, just as long as the weather doesn't get too severe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, now it's pretty good. So.
Yes. But all right, let's start talking about frequencies and vibrations.
Sure.
Uh,
So, go ahead.
Give me your theory on it.
Okay. Well, this is a theory that I've been developing for a long time, and I just recently started applying it to big and phenomena. And when I really started getting into it was when I was studying the Coral Castle in Florida. I don't know if you're familiar with the Coral Castle. Basically, back in the day, there was an immigrant from Eastern Europe. His name was Ed, and I believe the last name was Leitskelin. He came over to the U.S., and he was building a castle for his fiancée, and he was going to bring her over, and they were going to get married and then have their life. Well, he built in Florida, made out of coral blocks.
Okay.
But these blocks were massive. We're talking blocks like for the pyramid, several ton blocks. And this guy didn't use any of the equipment. Nobody actually saw him doing it. But he was able to build this magnificent, they call it a castle, and grounds and gardens.
Oh, there he goes again. We're having bad connections there. I'm waiting for him to come back, folks. I don't know if I can edit it where he's bouncing in and out or not, but it'll be part of the broadcast if not. And we share. There, he's coming back. There he is. There you are again.
That one just dropped. It just again. Basically, I was talking about the Coral Castle. This guy was able to build this magnificent building with no help, no heavy machinery, no education. And what he told people is that he just knew the secrets of the pyramids. He knew how they were built, but humans weren't ready for that technology, that information yet.
Right.
And, you know, I'm not going to get into much more than that about it, but you guys can look it up. All the information's online. It's absolutely fascinating. Well, I found the writings of this one guy who was really in-depth studying the Coral Castle and how it worked. And he had a copy somehow of like Ed's private journal and private diary kind of a thing. And he was trying to decode it and try and figure out. And he believes he had found some information, and it talked about sine waves and how the waves travel and is up and down with the frequency.
Yes.
Was this as science, you can only interpret waves that go on a vertical plane. Okay. His theory is that there there are frequencies, energies that work on a horizontal plane. So instead of going up and down, they're going side to side.
Right.
And he believes the combination of the two, and then the right frequency ranges is what allowed you to be able to move these massive blocks with no effort. And that's how they built the pyramids. So that got me onto the track of vibration and frequency and how they can affect the world around us. And so and then I started looking into that, and then you realize we've had that information all along, where it comes to, an upper singer that can sing a certain note and can shatter glass. That's a real thing. And how does that happen? It happens with frequency. It happens because she can hit the right vibration, which is the same vibration of that gas, and cause it to disintegrate. And then progressing forward, what?
Okay, he's breaking up again. You just broke up.
Sorry, this is killing. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then we move forward, and you start hearing things about the military using sonic weapons, right? Ultra low frequencies. They cause panic. They can cause you to lose your bowels. They cause senses of fear and anxiety. And I've had this confirmed by a military friend of mine who was over in the Middle East and was involved in combat situations where this technology was used. Okay? And it's all based on frequency and vibrations within range. And then I studied music growing up. And there's some phenomenon in music that contribute to this, right? Yes. So you can play two pure notes, and the sound waves will bounce off of each other and can create a third note that's not being played, but you can still hear it. It's still audible. Okay. Yes. So all this stuff, and it's all based on the same thing. It's all based on energy and the frequency, which is essentially the vibration of the energy. That's how we hear things. Our eardrums vibrate according to they're hitting it. And the different frequencies.
I agree with you 100% there. I really do. And a friend of mine, and it was one of my mentors, Jamie King, him and his wife, at my event, they did it's called Plant Talk. The vibration of the plant, it can make you can understand what it's saying. It has a thing that will do that piece of equipment. And I wanted to catch that part of it at my conference, but I was too busy and I missed it because I got pulled away when they were speaking. So I was very upset. So I told him he got to give me a personal show of that, just to see it.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. This is all accepted scientific fact. This is real. You could go on YouTube and see these guys where they just stand all over a special table and they vibrate sound through it. Designs are created. And there are these amazing geometric shapes and patterns that come out just by the sound and frequencies they're putting through their equipment. Okay?
Right.
And so then you hear about, so Eastern philosophy, Eastern religion, they all talk about raising the frequency, getting to that higher plane, right? Elevating yourself to the next level. And again, it's all on the same concept, elevating your frequency to a new level. So I'm looking at all this stuff. And the next thing you know, in the Bigfoot world, we're talking about cloaking and how cloaking can work and how it's a visual thing. And then I start taking reports from people I know and trust about this phenomenon of the cloaking. And I'm going, well, we perceive sight on a spectrum, but we can only perceive things within a certain range. A range is based on light frequency of the waves that are in. We have ultraviolet or we have infrared, and those are the ends of our spectrum. And it reaches the point that we can't see. And so I kind of was mulling it over and putting it all together and going, wait a minute, what if our reality is like a number line, okay? Yeah, you're in the middle and you go to the left of the line, you go to the positive line. Let's say our human experience, our perception, we can perceive from 0 to 10.
Right.
Okay? That is the utmost extremes of our human perception. Now, we're going to be able to develop instruments that can see beyond our perception if we don't understand there is a beyond of our perception. Right? Because we can only kind of instruments to measure what we perceive as measurable. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And
okay.
That's the thing,
So then,
our hearing's on a small scale, what we can hear.
right.
Same with our sights.
Yep.
These scales are so vast that we're just like boom. And
Exactly.
And our hearing, come on. They knew that years ago. And we're just now applying it to our research.
Exactly.
Vibrations in the
So
sound.
then, what my theory on it is there are entities that don't fall in that 0 to 10 category that we are. Maybe they are like maybe they're 7, 15, 7, 20 on number line. And when they're into 7, 8, 9, and 10, we can perceive them. Right? But if they phase into 11, 12, or 13 or up, we can't perceive them. So what if this whole thing with disappearing is actually an entity that is on that wavelength when they're in our perception range, we can perceive them, and either instinctually, like a flight or fight thing, or maybe they have the ability to adjust their own frequency as some kind of mechanism. They can't observe them because they're not on our frequency anymore.
Right, and that's a theory I've been trying to work at too. And now that I got a lot more free time by doctor's orders, I've been doing a little more research on that, which I still get more in. So that's going to be a plus for this being limited because of the doctor's orders.
Oh yeah, I just have a lot of free time where I'm doing my hands but not with my mind, and so I can start thinking about all this radical stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if we apply that same concept, the same theory, to pretty much anything in the paranormal world, it fits. If we're talking ghosts or shadow people, or even if we start talking religiously, demonic entities or angelic entities, all these things could simply be in different realms of frequency or vibration. Sometimes they come into ours, or we can perceive them, sometimes they can't.
Right.
And that to me, that's what I think is the connection with all these things that has to do with their frequencies, their individual vibrations, and our ability to be able to perceive them or pick up on them.
Exactly. Now, like you mentioned, shadow people. I'll tag you on a post that was from our April camp out of it looked like a shadow dog there. Someone got a picture of that, took a picture of that. And so you can see that. It ran between, I was camping out in my Blazer. My buddy Mike was in his tent because I was leaving first thing in the morning. And so I packed up my tent and everything, had it in, put away. And I had the vehicle all packed, so I just camped out in the Blazer. This thing went between my vehicle and his tent. Never heard it. Didn't even see it. Jake Fouch took the picture of it. And it was crazy. It was just crazy. That happened about 4 a.m. when he took that picture. But I will definitely tag you in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let me circle back to the Coral Castle thing where they talked about waves working on a horizontal plane as opposed to a vertical plane that we're used to, right? So let's say there's not only our plane, which is the vertical. What if there's multiple vibrational planes, right? So we have ours, which is straight, this way, and this is where a graphic would be nice, but I just don't have any put together. What if we're looking at down on a piece of paper and we draw that line, okay?
Yep.
But then 1 degree up, we draw another line that bisects the line that we're on. And what if we draw another one? What if we draw 180 lines, each at a degree, and each one of those is a vibrational field that we can't perceive or understand in our current science? Right? So maybe these other entities are on those other vibrational planes that we just aren't able to perceive.
I just wish we got
maybe that's where the
radios.
Right. So what if what we call dimensions or other realms or however you want to term it are simply these different vibrational planes that at some point cross ours, and that's where we get interaction.
Right.
What if a portal isn't a doorway? What if a portal isn't a portal? It's simply the ripple effect of something crossing our line. Right? Because everybody wants to think of a portal as a door opening and something coming through it. What if all that really is a vibrational line, and the portal is like ripples on the surface of a pond? And like if you put your finger into it, you get ripples, but that's not a door. That's not how you're entering it. That's just the effect of it. So, what if that's what we're perceiving as portals?
That's a good point. That is a very good point. I never thought of it that way.
Well, and that's the thing. That's why I want to kind of push this theory out there when it's a little more fleshed out. I'm not saying that I have no idea. We have no way to prove this. But
right.
It can move forward the thinking of where we are now and at least kind of start progressing a little more, because my belief is almost everything in the 14 world, whether it's cryptids or aliens or anything else, it's all kind of stalled. It's all kind of stagnant right now. And mostly what we're hearing is just rehashing of the same information. You know what I mean?
Yes.
There's not a whole lot of new coming into it. And so all I want to do is put forth different ideas, different theories that may or may not be right. I'm never going to say that I'm right and you're wrong. But at least to get the conversation going forward again and maybe get other people thinking out of the box so we can start having these conversations, because obviously there's stuff going on we don't understand. You know what I mean? So how can we understand that? Yeah. So how do we just move outside of the box?
I'm going to give you credit when I use your terminology too. When I talk to people, you're getting credit.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah. No, I don't take credit for no one else's theories in that, but I like that ripple effect and the whole 9 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Because that makes sense. That really does, Justin.
If you think of things in terms of vibration and frequency, and if you expound on the idea of different realms, or however you want to put it, dimensions, are different frequency lines, then it does kind of make sense how it all is tied together, even though it's not, like I said, I'm not saying Bigfoot or aliens, but that doesn't mean that the alien phenomena doesn't have to do with the different vibrational ranges, how they can move and operate visually different than what we can perceive, because we know technology and machines and beings can't move at right angles at super high speeds because they'll get crushed. But what if that's not really how they're moving? That's just how we're perceiving it because of our limitations. And even Bob Lazar kind of goes into that a little bit when he talks about how the UFOs don't move the way we see them move. That's just how we see them move because of how light and gravity are working around the ship. So I really think if better minds than mine can start putting to this kind of concept, we might come up with a lot more theories and better answers than we have now.
We really do need better ones, and I agree 110%. And the gravity and light, I got to go with the light thing on it with the UFOs.
Mm-hmm.
Because from what I saw that morning when I was 14 years old, the way the light was shining on it, reflecting off of it, and how it was just hovering. And it was actually hovering over water. It was following the Beaver River up here in PA, right near the beginning of the Beaver River.
Right.
But the reflection and the shine off, then when it did take off, I believe the sun quit reflecting like it was the way it was hovering. That's why it looked like it just disappeared.
Sure.
But that makes, I can go along with that.
We just don't know. Yeah.
They just disappeared like quick. You see it kind of turn and start taking off, and then it was gone. You didn't see it.
Then gone. Right.
Yep.
Now, then, see, that's the question. Did it move so fast that you couldn't track it with your eye? There's a possibility. Or did somehow the frequency, the vibration changed, and you just couldn't perceive it anymore?
Exactly.
We just don't know. We just don't know.
Exactly.
And there are tons of reports of UFOs hovering over water, and we don't know why. Some people speculate that it has to do with they have to take on fresh water for either their own use or for propulsion or different things like that. But water vibrates at a completely different frequency than air and earth. There's a whole different. So maybe there's some kind of tie-in there. We don't know.
Well, this past fall, we had a UFO sighting here in Sharon, and it was over the river, and I took 3 reports on it. One was right from downtown.
Okay.
The other one was up on the East Hill. The other one was over on the West Hill. All 3 saw where it was at. It was over the river, but they saw it in different angles. So, yes. And then it just disappeared on them.
A few months ago, there was a big thing in Wisconsin where people were filming colored lights flashing through the sky in like this big fog bank or cloud bank. I don't know if you saw that happen. And a lot of people were saying, a lot of people were saying it was lights it was around Christmas time. And they were saying it was Christmas lights coming from like Lambeau Field for a big Christmas thing they do every year. Well, I've got family up there, and they were sending me these recordings. And I'm looking at them, and I'm going, I don't understand why they're having spotlights flashing through these clouds. But if I can see the light on the cloud, why can't I see the beam of light coming from the ground?
Right.
Because if it's foggy enough to capture it, but I can only see the light zigzagging through the cloud, how come I can't see the beam of light coming from the ground? And why is it moving that way? If it has to be a huge, giant spotlight, they're not going to move like that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it was a very interesting phenomenon, but it made the news, And I had different people sending me videos that they were recording off their porch. I have friends and family up in Wisconsin.
Wow.
You know, and some were saying, "Oh no, it's lights from Lambeau," and other ones are going, "It can't be because it's not the right direction. We're not facing towards Lambeau Field. We're facing east instead of south." You know.
Yep. But
absolutely crazy phenomenon when it comes to UFOs and the lights and how all that works.
yeah, and there's a lot now, and I've been telling people too with the UFO phenomenon and the government releasing the municipal report, even though they say it's a big amount, but for what they got on UFOs and all that, that's nothing. It was like that.
Oh, no.
But more people are coming forward on this stuff now too.
That's why they had to admit a few years ago that it's a real phenomenon. The government came out and admitted UFOs were real, except they don't call them UFOs now. Now they're UAPs. That way they don't sound like they're the crazy ones that they made fun of all the years. But nobody batted an eye. It was like, oh, okay. And everybody's like, yeah, we know. And that was it. There was no big thing with it.
Yeah, they played it off for so long. They played it off for so long that they made the people immune to when they did release this.
Yep, absolutely.
And they're probably trying to do the same with Bigfoot.
I believe that it's going to be the same way with Bigfoot. Once there's so much out there where they can no longer deny the evidence, they're going to come out and say, oh, yeah, we know they're real. This is what we got. And it's going to be, like you said, a very small portion of their actual information. And it'll probably be misinformation on top of it. And then nobody's going to bat an eye because they're going to be like, yeah, we knew it. It's okay. We don't care, you know?
That's guaranteed.
I really think it's going to go the same way.
Yep. Yeah. And like I said at the beginning of the show, Bigfoot's mainstream now. Thanks to the internet, Bigfoot's mainstream. And I'm glad.
Up here in the Smoky Mountains, man, all over the place now. We got Bigfoot restaurants, we got Bigfoot popcorn places, Bigfoot stores, and half the stores now, Walmart, you can walk in and find Bigfoot merch in the souvenir section. I mean, it is everywhere all over up here in the Smoky Mountains now.
Yep.
And I'm with you. I mean, we got festivals all over the place, conferences happening in the Smoky Mountains. It's gone mainstream big time up here.
Yeah, and it is in Pennsylvania, too. And look at Ohio. Ohio got the Ohio Bigfoot Conference. Thousands of people come through there for that weekend. Yep. I actually was a vendor there this year with my agent down Explain. And the main reason is that so I can get some more reports from that area. Not just Bigfoot, but anything. And I did, and it was interesting. I didn't make any money, but I didn't care about that part. I wanted reports.
Yeah.
And I got to meet a bunch of people that I spoke to on the computer, but never got to meet. I got to meet them, and that made it even better. But yeah, my conference, my paranormal conference, I held, we had 1,000 people come through. We're probably going to have more than that this coming year. Because these conferences are getting so big. Up there in Maryville, Forest County Bigfoot Festival. Look what happened there.
Oh, that was crazy.
I went walking down the one way to get to another friend's stand there, and I had to turn around, come back, and cut through these people's yard to get through the crowd. It's like, wow.
That Saturday, man, it was wall-to-wall people. It was just so busy.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Like I said, 10 times more people there this year than there was last year.
No, that's what they were saying. They said next year they're going to have to move it to a different location because it was jamming up the town too much when they had it. They got a different area picked out where they're going to be able to set it up.
Oh, that might hurt him. That might
Well,
hurt
it's just it's literally just down the road, like just really close,
Oh,
but just down a couple blocks, kind of a thing. Just a better area so it doesn't clog up the town. Because talking to Dave, he said there was people that had to leave because the highway and everything was so backed up they couldn't even get into town.
Yeah. And that was unreal because the year before the traffic was steady, but it wasn't backed up. And this year it was really backed up, but the weather was extra great. So that helped.
Oh yeah.
So, but that, like I told Dave, I said, it's unbelievable how big it is.
Yep.
How it's growing. Even on the vendors, they had so many more vendors, which they needed them for the crowd.
Sure, absolutely.
But now my 2024 Penn Ohio Paranormal Conference, I already got the speakers lined up. Let me ask you for the 2025 one. Would you like to be a speaker?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
I'll get you all the info together for you, so you know, and we'll discuss more about it later on.
Sure.
Because you got a
Absolutely,
lot of
man.
interesting things you can share. And I definitely would love to have you doing it.
I'd love to be there. I don't have anything set up for 2025 yet. I only do a couple a year because my health won't really let me do a whole lot more than that. But I'd be happy to put that on and then go up there and talk about whatever you all want me to about.
Hey, that'd be awesome. Because I'd really appreciate it, Justin. Like I said, you're a very interesting guy, and you got a lot of knowledge, and I really appreciate you sharing them.
I appreciate it. Like I said, I'm just a nerd who loves to talk.
I'm not a nerd that likes to talk. I'm just a crazy old man that loves to talk. But anyhow, we're going. We've been doing this for about an hour now. I'll get a hold of you here in the next few days. I know you work a lot
Okay.
in the afternoons, but I'll send you a message, and
Sure.
we'll get together on stuff because there's other things I want to discuss with you. And
Absolutely.
I appreciate you coming on, big time, more than you know.
Hey, not a problem. Not a problem.
I was looking
appreciate
forward
you
to
asking.
this. Yeah. And give you a better half a hug for me. She's a sweetheart of a
I
lady.
will.
Yeah.
Oh, she's amazing.
And she loves to take pictures.
Well, it does. I mean, she's a journalist and a freelance photographer, and that's what she does. And then she's the one that pushes me out and does my marketing and all that kind of stuff. So she's absolutely wonderful. I wouldn't be doing without her.
Oh, yeah. And after Marionville, I started seeing all these pictures popping up that she took. I said, oh, my God, I didn't even know she got that one. How in the hell did she get that one? It's like, wow, she's good. But
Yeah.
But anyhow, thank you again. I'm going to do my outro music.
No problem.
And you have a great evening, Justin. Thank you again.
Hey, not a problem. You too, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right, buddy.
This has been an Agents of the Unexplained original podcast. Like us on Facebook, subscribe and view on YouTube, and please visit our store link in the bio. Thank you for listening, and remember that paranormal is